So I am joined today on the podcast by James Williamson. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks.
Very pleased to have you here. We have what I think is going to be a very interesting conversation coming up around the future of comms and specifically the place of AI within comms. But before we tackle that fairly meaty subject, James, do you want to give us a bit of an introduction to yourself and tell us a little bit about your career history?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Emma. Well, I think it all started when I loved listening to lyrics of music back in the day, and I still do, and words, and reading quite a lot as a kid, and just being fascinated by the power of the written word, but particularly in music, there's something about it, and knowing a lot of the lyrics to a lot of songs and remembering it in such a way that in some other ways I couldn't remember words or lines to things. I don't think I'd be that great an actor. So, but there is something about the power of music. So remembering all of that stuff and understanding, or trying to get an understanding of the meaning that words convey and what communications is all about, I guess, at that young age, not at a conscious level, but just really enjoying it. Really, I think, stoked my interest in communications, in writing in particular. And then that sort of led me on down the track of doing a commerce degree and going through school and doing that. Whether or not that was the right thing to do, you don't know. It's hard to know.
It is hard to know at the time.
Yeah. At 18, so doing that, but doing a marketing component within that, and economic history, and getting good marks for that, but not getting such great marks for statistical analysis. So, that's okay. Well, I know where I'm not going to be, work for a big insurance company as an analyst there.
Yeah, perhaps, I know that's not the future.
So going into working, I worked in the UK and lived there as a kid too. So having that broad-mindedness, I guess, and then coming back to Australia and getting into funds management back in the day when that was it was the old model of funds management. Some would argue it's still the same model, but I think it has changed a little bit, that industry, and working on the sales side and working in the sales team from an operations role, and then getting opportunity to do research, which I really like doing, just getting to the nuts and bolts of things, but also on the writing side too. And I remember doing a writing test and doing okay on that, just having a bit of an understanding of language and a liking for it. So I think that passion, that liking for something, and that got me onto the comms side and working in funds management for many years. And working in communications and marketing teams, and just understanding or getting an understanding of how to communicate, how to understand your audience, working out who your audience is, and it relates to the AI bit, because I suppose even 10 years ago, there was still pretty blunt tools to really understand your audience. You segmented them pretty basically. They might be advisors, for example, or they might be institutional clients. So from the funds management aspect, it was that was on the sell side. So that's the super funds, obviously, and wealth management as well. And segmenting them, but in a pretty blunt way, as I said. Having said that, sales was and probably is still done on a relationship basis, which is I think ultimately it's the way to do it. But there's a lot of heavy lifting and a lot of work, even for fund managers to understand, get their intel on the client base. So that led me into a more pure sort of comms marketing roles, and transferring across from funds management into super, and learning about the world of superannuation, which is you discover it's quite different from funds management. But the skills you've got, or you hope you've got, in communications, in writing and learning new forms of communication, and working with colleagues too, who have other specializations, and learning the digital side of things, and then I'm trying to understand how our AI systems in more recent years can help you as a marketer and as a communicator with provide those tools. So that's kind of where I've ended up, and just getting out and setting up my own business and using those skills, hopefully, thank you, to provide, I think the key thing, as I put on my website, provide the means to help clients add value to their brand, but that's not just that, but also to help their customers. So any organization that loses sight of their customers, well, particularly these days, it's going to be a tough gig to really deliver that ROI, if you like, and deliver that revenue. You've really got to stay in touch with your customers and understand.
There's a lot that I want to ask you and talk to you about. I'm just going to take a small step back, and then we'll kind of jump into some of that other stuff. Just thinking about comms in, I guess, financial services and super more broadly, and that being a relatively kind of unique beast, because you've got that balance between regulation and obviously what you can and can't say, and obviously can't be advice-based and all of that kind of stuff, but still wanting to provide value to customers in the content. And I would imagine as a writer, wanting to have some degree of creativity still in what you're saying. Quite tough to balance those things out.
Yes, it is. Well, I think that's what legal and compliance departments for. And, you've got to have firstly, a good relationship with your stakeholders. Any communications person has to, particularly going through, not so much the senior level, because I think if you get to the senior level, because it's a pretty tough gig, comms. But if you don't understand how to work with those stakeholders, and learn the basics of the regulatory constraints, RG 67, all of those things. Just having a feel, as I said, for your audience, but what you can say and how you can say it, and the content you can provide to them, and the messages that you can impart to them that have been, that are kosher, that have been ticked off, that fit your customers' values as well, that provide value to them that hopefully they didn't even know they wanted. That's that hits. I was thinking about this earlier. That hits a sort of source of truth with your customers, because even at the corporate level, particularly I would say at the consumer level, we're all just inundated with messages. How do you not only connect? Firstly, you've got to work out how to connect with your audience, and if it's B2B business audience, do you really understand that audience? You might be sending out a general EDM to a wide variety of, for example, financial advisors, and they're all very different. They're all got different business models. A lot of them have got similar issues and problems they're dealing with. Often it's a lot of compliance issues themselves. They just want to advise clients. So how do you provide the right messages? How do you provide the right digital journey for them? How do you provide solutions that it's going to help their business? So that might be from the funds management side of things, in working through a key account strategy, for example, that we used to do when I was at Invesco, which is a great firm, really, really good, really great products, and provides a great culture too for staff working there. There's a plug, but I think it's if you're an employee working in a place and you're happy, if you're content, if it's a really good culture and fit for you, I think you're gonna do well. You're gonna do well there. You're gonna get given opportunities. But back to that marketing side and the communication side to advisors, it's just crafting those messages now. In the future, if you extrapolate 10 years into the future, or even 5 years potentially, with the tool, what tools have you got outside your experience and mind and empathy as a communicator? Can you communicate better to that client set, to each individual advisor? You would know a lot more information about them, about what their buying values are. or even their attention values, and what problems might you be solving, because you might be solving problems for one advisor, for example, but not for the other. So what content, what messages, what narrative, if you like, is going to really engage with them. But not only that, as I keep on saying to other people, how are you going to help solve their problems? Okay, so they can you know, whether it's products, portfolios, content, insights, thought leadership, that's really valuable for them. And I think that's going to, even at the B2B side on the going forward into the future, that's going to become a lot sharper in consumer land. And I haven't worked in FMCG. Some people in the audience, I'm sure, will have, but you know, you've got consumers. We're all consumers. We're a lot more savvy. We're, to some extent, quite cynical, can be cynical about the messages that we get. So it's how to deliver those in such a way that's helping meet your needs and meeting a sort of sense of truth within yourself too. So.
If that's kind of the, I guess, I don't know, the bedrock, the foundation of comms and how you should be kind of crafting messages, how, where, why does AI kind of fit into that? Or maybe even kind of taking a step back, maybe it's helpful to kind of maybe give a bit of an introduction initially to AI, what that means, and then what that means in terms of comms specifically.
Well, I think firstly, AI is it's artificial intelligence, and some people don't know that. You know, it's artificial intelligence, but it's essentially making machines smart. So it's our algorithms, which is just a fancy word for a computer program, a mathematical, and this is important, a mathematical computer program, which allows a machine to learn and make predictions. That's the key things. The prediction machines. There's a really great book called Prediction Machines. And that's essentially what computers with algorithms inside them, programmed by very smart programmers, but these algorithms are also traded or also put out in the public on the internet, programs which allow machines to learn. So that is the main technology that is used these days, machine learning, making predictions based on quality data. The more data that goes in, the better the predictions the machines can make. So it might be predictions about what consumer buying habits on a macro level or a micro level. It could be, you know, everyone understands the Netflix show predictions. Okay. So, well, and going back to music, Spotify or whatever it is, predictions. So looking at Netflix, that's a great example of machine learning. The data that Netflix collects on your viewing habits, on what you've watched in the past, may or may not.
For me.
I'd hate to know what my algorithm thinks
of me.
Sometimes I get shows put forward to me, suggested to me. I'm not. That's not. You don't know me. You don't know me. That's machine learning. AI is a bit. AI is a broad term for making machines smart, but real artificial intelligence, and it's artificial, is more in what they call the deep learning side of things. Sorry, you had a question, so
I was just going to say, sorry to interrupt you. I think just in its most simplistic term, I think quite helpful to think of it as prediction. It's learning essentially, but it's predicting the future based on past data.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And that's the machine learning side of things. The deep learning side of things is well, it's modeled loosely on the human brain on series of networks. They're called neural networks or neural nets. Now, I'm not a scientist, I'm not a mathematician, I'm a humble communicator. And so that's a different thing, because it's, yes, it uses data, but it's more purely artificial intelligence where the machine learns by itself rather than based on the data that's fed into it to make purely predictions. That's the key difference. Now, example of I can relate that and Netflix. I think it's Netflix where there was a great program on DeepMind, which is a British company that Google has bought, that is a pioneer in neural networks. And the program is about AlphaGo. I don't know if you've heard of AlphaGo, but it's essentially a very even more complex form of chess, which is based in China.
Okay.
So it's both intuitive and logical. So it's, think of little white and black pebbles on almost like a checkerboard.
Okay.
Now, I have never played it, but it's a fantastic program. I'll say Netflix because that all fits in well with the predictive thing.
Somewhere, yeah.
It might have even been served up to me, and this is fantastic. So I watched that. So essentially, what happened was a number of years ago was that DeepMind basically created its AlphaGo program to take on Go practitioners, the best in the world.
Yeah.
What happened was, and I won't do too many spoilers, but effectively what happened was AlphaGo beat the best Go players in the world by, I think they might have won one game. There were 5 games. One contestant who was one of the best got beaten 5-love. The other one was 5-1. So that's what this program went into. But the point was that AlphaGo has neural networks, so it can think for itself, work out strategies that not even this best player in the world have even conceived. This is the difference. So machine learning, think Netflix shows that surge up, think Facebook ads and so all of that stuff. And then even more recently, there was AlphaGo Plus, took on AlphaGo. So it was battle of the neural networks, right? And they played 100 games. And AlphaGo Plus, and I think this might have been just a couple of years ago, AlphaGo Plus beat AlphaGo 100 times straight.
Wow. So
that in those few years, this is the technology, this is the advancement of DeepMind, run by an almost genius level person called Denis Hassabis, who pioneered these neural networks, and I believe was bought by Google for something like 700 million or something like that. So
Google isn't buying these spaces.
And Google's at the forefront in many ways with AI, and particularly probably deep learning, having this DeepMind technology, because it is owned technology, owned IP as well. That's pioneered by these very clever people. So that's where we're at, right now with DeepMind. Cool. So, but most of the AI tools are machine learning, and there's so many tools now that you can apply to everything from Netflix to Facebook. We've all seen the Facebook ads, we've all seen the product.
Far too many.
So we're all wise to that. And music and Spotify, again, just even 5-8 years ago, I was quite into streaming at a fairly basic level, and the speed at which they could serve up those predictions was amazing, but also the problems that they had getting off the ground. Spotify, it's a massive company now, as we all know, but in those early days, it was the technology wasn't quite there. So that leaves plenty of room for cynicism from the consumer as to what content you're getting served up. But as we go along, this is the early days of AI. So think 10 years, 20 years, where we'll be. It's extraordinary. So it's how do we apply that technology as marketers, as communicators, and how do we think of that still as a tool? There's a lot of, I think, quite a lot of scaremongering going on, that it's going to take over our lives, that it's going to be disruptive. But I think there's a lot of, there are some things that have happened that are scary. Where Tesla, there's some people who are testing the automated driving the cars that where the machine learning wasn't quite fine enough, and even some of the perception of the automators around the car, and that led to accidents.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
obviously, and there are regulatory issues sometimes, like any technology. It's ahead of the regulation. So working within that, and just importantly understanding these tools as marketers, understanding how we can use those tools to make better predictive analysis, not just in marketing, but going back to the sales piece as well, where Salesforce, for example, is an AI-driven tool. There are so many of them out there. I've taken a look at a few, and it's a lot of them have AI algorithms at the core. So that's just their sharp tools these days. So
yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? Because I think so much of what we hear more broadly, sort of marketing, content, brand, is that real focus on human connection, storytelling.
Yeah.
And then somewhat ironically underneath, that's actually underpinned by AI, the non-human part of it. How do you see those things kind of fitting together, as it were? My light's just gone off here. Excuse me. I'm going to wave my arm and make it come back on. Doesn't want to come on.
Yeah,
we'll ignore it.
I'm sure it's an AI-driven light.
Probably. I haven't been moving enough, but it thinks I'm not here anymore.
Yeah. Look, I think as a marketer, as a communicator, I think we're all communicators, but communicating your messages, if you like, communicating your narrative, communicating your value of the goods or services that you're promoting, obviously selling, that you have a very strong and sometimes intuitive understanding of these AI tools. So it could be going back to the Salesforce side. So on the sales side, how can you make Salesforce work for you to generate better leads, for example, to refine those leads, to let AI do a lot of the heavy lifting for you to generate those leads. And as a communicator, because salespeople it's not just about written communication, it's about verbal communication, how to get better insights from that data, from that predictive work that the AI algorithm has done for you, to make your messages sharper and to let you understand your audience better. So that's for salespeople. So the olden days of the scattergun approach, the Mad Men,
the numbers game,
intuitive approach of Don Draper, where the advertising genius who sits down there and has that nous. That intuition still, don't forget that as communicators we have it, but it's just sharpened. So you can have you're more efficient in the way you sell, in the way you market, in the way you target, in the way you use your channels, whether it's Facebook or YouTube, the tools you use to, say, convert long form, blogs into short form messaging. And there's lots of tools out there that do that, content tools.
Yeah.
If you to use all these tools, and as a business startup, it gets pretty expensive pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Building websites, I haven't seen too many tools that you essentially put in the inputs you want and it builds a website for you. But as
builds and writes, or just
builds and writes the content and puts the images in. But look, I think something like that I haven't actually seen any. I use Squarespace for mine, and I was writing a personal blog, and I just know the mechanics of that. I know the tags. I know how it's put together, and that's part of my service offering is the content design. How do you put content together? Now, AI, you'll have tools to do that right now, but right now I don't think there's website tools. So again, I think communicators don't want to lose that. They want to have that tools as tools and to enhance what you're doing and to make your content design much, much better than it even was 4 years ago, for example. Video as well. There, text to video, there's tools, there are apps that can convert or that can edit your video from the speech, from the closed caption speech that's within that. So essentially, the tool is you might change a word or two here and there, but and then it changes the actual video itself.
Wow!
So all these tools,
cool.
all these tools are out there. Ultimately, I think the key point is, as a communicator, as a marketer, as a seller, if you don't understand your audience and what their buying values are and how to connect with them, all the tools in the world will make you an unsuccessful communicator, I would argue.
Yeah. When for you, and I appreciate, I'm going to ask a very blanket question, and I appreciate there isn't a blanket answer because I appreciate it's going to be very nuanced in individual circumstances, but where's the line for you as a comms professional? You can use these tools behind the scenes to support, but where for you is the line in terms of, well, at that point I want to take over because I actually want to write that myself, or I want to craft that message myself, or where do you think that line should be?
I think that as a communicator, if you're crafting your communications approach or plan or a marketing strategy, you never want to lose sight of the fact that you're the driver, that the tools are tools, as I said, that you use those tools, that they don't drive your communication, your messages, and so forth. So if it's understanding how the data works as well. So again, the old days of writing what you think is a fantastic line, even a fantastic subject heading, and your intuition might be right, but more and more so if that's not backed up by the data, by you understanding how the data works through the AI systems, how you interact with your data scientists. If you're in a bigger organization, for example, big super companies, how you work hand in hand with them, and you understand the tools themselves, you understand how the email is put together, you're hands-on across the technology, you understand the algorithms, not to the mathematical level, obviously, but you understand how the data works, that you can then harness those tools and harness your intuition and experience to bring it into your communications strategy and approach. And that might be at the messaging level, at the narrative level, at the content forms that you want to take, be it EDM or be it which messages go when out through social media and how that works, how you might be able to harness, for example, user-generated content. And so you can work with your audience, and that happens already, where you work with your customers on a sort of interactive level on an ongoing basis. So it's not a static thing. The old-fashioned thing is sending out a campaign. You hope it works. You hope it gets traction. You will know. You'll understand the data. You'll obviously have the metrics that you want to hit and all of that sort of stuff. But critically, you will understand how to connect with your audience. And then, as I think I said to you the other day too, how to provide the best possible experience through that technology, because all the analysis, all the insights, all the prediction in the world won't do much unless the user experience and the user journey, as they say, and just is really right for that user
Mm.
Those tools will enable you as a marketer to provide a more curated user journey. So, for example, in Super, where Super is bringing in, I'm not there at the moment, but it was bringing in all the Adobe technologies, journey experience, and just understanding how you can craft curated specific messages to your customers, your members, and then obviously those messages will be valuable for them. It helps build the brand because you understand them, you connect
builds
with them.
trust as well, doesn't it? Yeah.
And then they will take, it's not going to be a command, but they will take action that's right for them based on those messages. And the way of delivering that content will become more sophisticated. Right now, I think it's, it's in the form of EDMs and text messages and so forth. But, understanding what Meta, the old Facebook, I think they're called Meta now. It's a strange name.
Yeah, but, I don't get it. Yeah.
But increasingly that technology of using augmented reality and virtual reality will come to the fore. So
that's the bit I don't get about it. Like, maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm too old. Like, maybe I'm not the demographic, but I can't quite get why we would all want to live in this virtual. Why would I want to have an interaction with you in the virtual world when I can have an interaction with you in the real world? That's the bit I haven't quite. Maybe I don't understand it properly. Maybe I'm too simplistic, but that's the bit I can't quite comprehend. And I was watching something the other day, I can't think what it was, where they were sort of saying one of the things that they're going to be able to do is you're going to be able to go and visit the pyramids, and kind of walk around the pyramids, and the little clip they showed of it, it looked terrible. Like, it looked like I'd drawn it, and I am not an artist. It didn't look great. And I kind of thought, I get that from a perspective of, maybe education and schools, and broadening the world to people who may not kind of be able to see parts of it, but at the same time I was kind of like, I don't know, I think maybe I'm not the demographic, but sorry, slight tangent.
No, that's right.
The thing I was going to ask you, just as you were talking there about that kind of level of personalization and using that data to really understand the customer, I think, just from talking to people, friends, etc., I think where some people are a little bit uneasy perhaps about some of this stuff is that I think we've all had those messages that have crossed from being personalized to being a bit creepy or like feeling like we've been stalked. How do we avoid that? Like, how do we make sure that we're providing personalized value content, but we've not gone too far and kind of feels intrusive to the receiver?
Yeah, that's right. I think that's a really key point you've hit on, and to some extent it's part of the natural evolution of the technology, and it's not just about AI,
No, it's
there's been intrusions
part about automation as
from
well,
ads screaming at you at the TV, from free to air for how many years it's been TV? Besides, since '56. I remember, I don't remember. Sorry, the Queen. I remember watching the Queen come to the Olympic Games and so forth. So there's always been ads on TV that they've been intrusive. Okay, but as I said before, it's the scattergun approach. Whereas what the technology, the marketing, the sophistication, the breadth of media that we've got these days allows for is that a much higher level of intrusiveness potentially. There's either intrusiveness or there's value. That will be, people are more, well, I'm sure everyone is much more cynical about when a Facebook ad is screaming at me, when I'm getting another e-newsletter, not one of yours, or another e-newsletter that comes into my that comes into your inbox, which you ignore. There are so many of them. I use a program, an email called Spark. It's a third party, which it just segments you into your newsletters, and I'll have a quick look at them. And someone has taken a long time. It's not an AI-driven machine to craft those messages. So why are they not connecting with me? So yes, more intrusive, but the ones that can really know you and really reach either your buying values, if you're buying, or just your values, or just educating you, particularly with financial services. There's a lot more of that. There's a long way to go on that side of things. That's a good thing. That's going to be a tricky area to try and negotiate as a consumer and as a marketer too, to make sure that those messages are right, that they're tasteful, that they're not intrusive, that they're helping. Particularly, I would say particularly in the super side, and having more experience on that side, is how are you helping your members? How are you really helping them, right? So, for example, if you're a member and most members, super members, are not really all that au fait with financial products or even care. They just want to get their statement. They want their super to grow, right? They don't really want to engage. So all of these systems and big funds like Aware Super are just getting much more targeted now at creating those journeys for those particular members. But I think that'll be more refined. So, for example, someone like me who's interested in socially responsible investment, who understands, just through my experience and the work I've done and the courses I've done, understand investments, are interested in it, write about it, a high level, I guess, member with a certain balance, probably higher, because my super's advanced over the years. Gone backward in the last 6 months, but I don't look at my balance. Forget about it. So, do my super funds really know me, for example? So that's that side of things, and what are they going to provide me in that way? The same goes for advisors. I've been advised in the past, and it was pretty generic. It was good. It was reasonable advice until the bond market started to go backwards, but I didn't ever really get any tailored and curated communications and content that I would have liked that suited that investment. So I think all of that will get on that side will get a lot sharper. And on the funds management side, I think on the sales side, because it's a selling portfolio management game, investment game. But on the B2B side, on the advisor side, for example, I think AI and just that. The marketer's nous will be much more important in shaping better messages and helping them, as I mentioned before. So.
And in terms of shaping messages and actually the messages going out, is there a part within that, obviously for AI in terms of the data and the prediction, but is there, I was going to say a world in which, but where the AI is actually crafting some of those messages, perhaps some of those simpler regulatory messages, or just those kind of ongoing messages? Is the AI actually writing those? Have we got to that stage yet?
Like I think in some industries, I think that something to be aware of it's the use, understanding and adoption of the AI technology varies greatly across industries. In the tech industry, clearly with Google, all of those Apple technology companies, very high level. In finance, in marketing, I think it's still, just it's there, but it's probably the understanding needs to be advanced a bit more in the use of it. In understanding that you can have a content writing tools that will help you write subject header messages. So as I said before, it'll help you do that heavy lifting that might, you will provide the fuel, being, for example, a very, hopefully insightful blog post that an AI algorithm at this current point in time probably won't be able to write. Because it takes empathy, it takes understanding, all all those incredible things that lie inside your brain, that the brain of an AI machine, it's just, no, it's ones and zeros effectively.
Yeah.
It's not the same as having a cerebellum and a cerebrum, an emotional understanding. All of those things, it's not there. It'd be a pretty scary world if they were there, and that's what I worry about. But you do, so it's just those tools to tease out those messages to help you do your job as a communicator, as a marketer, and help you if you're working, say, with a client directly and helping them build their brand, understanding inside and out what, maybe even better than the customer, maybe even your client rather, does about their brand, possibly, you know, and helping their customers, as I said at the start of this discussion. So it's just using it as a tool and understanding that. You know, if it's, again, as a sales tool, doing a lot of that work and sifting through the leads and making sure those leads are working better for your sales strategy and for your marketing strategy, and helping you drive the content in a smart way. But you control the strategy as a marketer.
Yeah. Do you think? Again, I was just talking to my business partner Ez about this morning before jumped on the podcast, and we were sort of saying it does still feel that there's an element of that people are a bit reticent still. There's an element of, I don't know, fearfulness, if that's too strong, but people, or some people, I think, still feel a little bit uneasy about AI and the involvement of AI and how it's kind of growing. Do you have an opinion on why you think that is, or where that kind of comes from?
I think some of the fear or reticence is sometimes well-founded, because we are finding that we're just talking about journalism. Some of the journalism jobs are going anyway, you know, but some of them to AI, because some of these programs, the algorithms can write the articles, which might be factual articles, not the opinion pieces, for example, not the investigative journalism, but the bread and butter stuff, the stuff you might read in your local news, for example. You know, these media organizations run on extremely skinny budgets. It's very difficult to compete. Even the I would argue even the Fox News, to compete on that media landscape. They've got their specializations, but to compete with the Facebooks of this world, which is, as they're called these days, competing with these I wouldn't call them media companies, but these companies that have the data.
Almost have become, though, haven't they? I think that's
almost become media, and they have the data. They've got the data to drive the algorithms, to drive the machine learnings, to do it smarter, to make better predictions. And then there was, and just as an aside, AI has been around since the 1950s.
Is it?
Everyone back then, some of the smartest people thought this is the answer, but it went into a 30-year winter, the AI winter, as they call it. And they didn't have the technology. They didn't have the tools to make. It's mostly technology and the computing power, to make that work. And again, I'm not an expert in this area, but I do understand that. It's only really in the last probably 10 years that we've had the technology and mostly the computing power, just the sheer grunt on the motherboards. To really drive those algorithms.
The idea was there, and actually
it was there. The dream was there.
Technology had to catch up.
Yeah, that's right. And so yes, you know, with that greater computing power comes more fear about how this will affect our lives, and it will. Some people are saying it's the next industrial revolution. Well, I think it probably will be, but time will tell. It's hard to think of any other that might be the next. I'd say probably the internet, but that was more a technology. It could be that the internet harnessed with AI technology is the next true industrial revolution. But again, I think ultimately we're all human beings. These are tools. I don't think we we need to worry about AI taking over humanity.
The rise of the machines.
The rise of the machines. It's certainly not, right. It's not a Terminator scenario yet. But I do think the fact that regulation is well behind in many areas. There's been instances of cybersecurity data breaches, the technology failing. Cambridge Analytica, from memory, a few years ago.
We were just talking about that this morning as well.
Yeah, that's
Brexit
right.
And
all of that sort of stuff. That's probably a more insidious movement that has probably some basis of people feeling worried or afraid.
Yeah.
And the press is full of likes to print. Not print, print digitally, of course. Bad news stories often. The Google accidents. But the good side of things, where the IPCC use AI to model climate change. Where AI is being used in global food programs, in just doing all that hard work in generating and making data predictions, and just having a finer handle on how to provide the solutions to help humanity. So I'm really positive. I'm really positive. I don't think we're going to all morph into machines. And Elon Musk has got his Neuralink, where I think the essential basis for that is. And I think a lot of that is his fantastically good intentions towards helping humanity and helping cure. It could be cure Alzheimer's, for example. It certainly would be used in robotics. Excuse me, where you'll get an artificial. You won't just get an artificial prosthetic limb. You'll get a prosthetic limb, a bit like the $6 million man. So I've heard, of where you'll get a prosthetic which has got greater strength than your own hand, which is already a case where AI is helping doctors make diagnosis that they could never do by themselves, which is, so hopefully, I think it'll help cure cancer, for example, or help accelerate those discoveries as well. Artificial driving machines. I'm not going to hop in one and go to sleep until it's at,
I'm not
I believe, level
keen.
5. There are levels, and I think Tesla's at level 2.
Okay.
Or maybe 3. So in terms of the safety. But just incidentally, I was going through a roundabout very slowly with my kids the other day, and I could see this car coming towards me, and I just knew it wasn't going to stop. But you have that terrible feeling of this is going to happen, reality crashing in, literally. The car just stopped by itself. The driver didn't know anything about it. It just stopped because it sensed. Luckily, it was a newer, it might have been a Volkswagen T-Cross. It was a T-Cross. That's AI-driven technology. That's based on the algorithms, the data sets, the prediction, the sensors. So my driving experience was a good one. And the driver came back and he was just really worried that it was going to be a crash, and it wasn't. So so in terms of that, those technologies being in self-driving cars, I think that those sort of things, it'll be a lot safer for people. Medical advances, going back to the communications side of things, that I do think that it will really be an enhancement. Those tools will be an enhancement for communicators. But there'll always be the old-fashioned need to deliver value, to connect with your audience. And I think that comes back to the human being to do that.
I think that's a nice place to move to my final question, James. Always the final question here on the podcast for those that have listened before. What do you know now that you wish you knew then?
What do I know? You then being sort of 10 years ago, or way back
whatever feels appropriate to you.
I think that for me, it's that I think that not to be afraid of technology. For me personally, there was a time where I mean, my computer science teacher wrote my report. You got to expose, James has got to expose himself to more experiences, meaning the tech experience. And I think at one point that I was a bit hesitant. I don't know why. It was just a mindset I had. And I think that is to really let tech, to embrace tech and the solutions that it can provide, but just use it to enhance your life and the quality of your life and your career as well, to understand those tools. But I, for one, I don't use Siri because I just, whenever, it's one thing, and to reject the tools that aren't going to help you. So I don't use Siri because whenever I ask it something, it just never understands me. So maybe I'm speaking with the marbles in my mouth or something.
Same.
Like
I don't know if maybe it doesn't understand my accent, but I never get the outcome that I was after. Or she pipes up just totally randomly, and you haven't even said, the words.
That's right. Yeah, and just the power of technology, particularly the internet, because that's really the engine that drives that. That drives AI. You wouldn't be able to do too much AI without the infrastructure that you really harness that and you use that, and just to help the quality of your life. And my philosophy is to help the quality of the lives of the people around you, and obviously from a career point of view, and from a marketer's point of view, how to help deliver value. And you want the ROI for your clients and for yourself as well. That value that you're giving, true value that you're giving to them. I think that's what will be really rewarded to you if you're a business owner or as a supplier of services or goods to a customer. So I think because with technology, as we're talking about, I think people will become increasingly appreciative of that true value that you give them. So I think to help them.
Thank you. Thank you very much, James. Really, really interesting, as the title suggests, interesting conversation.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
And I feel like I've learnt a lot, and already kind of expanded my thinking as to kind of what's out there, and actually also how I feel about what's out there, and how it's kind of impacts my own life and kind of life in general. So thank you very much.
No, well, you're welcome, Emma. Thanks a lot. Good to talk with you.